choice.
Hey Mike, are you doing your solar presentation?
Tomorrow?
You know,
Tonight's
it's
vote.
Yeah.
I'm just, I have the lawyer, what he had, and I've got a lot of, most of the pictures to show them
Oh, okay.
what it looks like and stuff, so,
Because they talked about it last night in Roxbury, went over your resolution.
yeah, well, I had to change the resolution too, because Porter Reed's did, and it was confusing, and he wanted to change it, but Crystal can be.
So the one Roxbury got is not the one you
It's just
did?
changed a little bit, one
Okay,
paragraph.
well, they didn't adopt it last night because they decided to wait till
Okay,
after.
is there anybody that would like privilege of the floor tonight? Approval of the March 8th board minutes. Everybody had a chance to look at them?
Yep, just one clarification there. I know I was absent, so I couldn't have voted on the shared service agreement. Maybe I did over the phone, I don't know.
Which one was that?
Page 2, resolution 02-2016, highway shared service agreement.
Yep.
Thank you.
It'd be tough to vote from,
I mean, it's
Vacation
possible, I
land.
guess I could have, but, and then,
Subliminal, I kinda
you
got
know,
it.
maybe just had too many umbrella drinks that day. don't
Probably.
remember.
I probably did. And then under youth and health and youth, that committee is Matt and, instead of me. Other than that, I would say, make a motion to approve. With the corrections.
Okay, we've got a motion in the second to approve with the 2 corrections. All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Okay, old business, the New York City land acquisition 5-year anniversary. Nicole apparently got a wrong message.
I can come back in May, it's not a big deal. We have till the middle of June, so the resolution's all ready and everything, you had your public hearing. So I'll just bring the map in.
Just bring the new map next time.
Okay. With or without?
What?
Sounds
With or
like a
without?
plan.
Oh.
All right, we'll, do the final decision on that next month. And, on the pool, we've got the signed contract back from, Lakeside.
Yeah, Lakeside Engineering. And we have been working with them, proceeding along with the design, so we hope to have that finalized. We have one out there right now with the committee for their approval, so we hope to get that finalized and everything's going along smoothly right at the moment.
So far?
Nobody's come after us.
All right. New business. Bid openings. Who wants to do the honors? Don't all jump at once.
All right.
Usually it's the
Somehow
town
they always
clerk
end
who
up on
does
this end of it.
Yeah, they do.
What do you got for this one?
Oil.
Okay, this is for item 3, number 2, heating oil at $1.49 per gallon, fixed rate from Allison Oil. From Marabito, item number 3, number 2, heating oil bid. Okay, number 2, heating oil, Marabito, $1.94 per gallon. Let's see. And then we have a firm differential of plus 0.1650 per gallon. Fluctuating bid price as of 4/6 of $1.2591 per gallon. And a firm price pay per delivery of $1.7153 per gallon. Firm bid price option must be accepted by written notification. Okay. Figure that out.
Diesel.
Diesel from Marabito. Okay, the posting price is $1.1534 per gallon. Firm differential of plus 0.1650 per gallon. Fluctuating bid price as of 4/6 of $1.3184 per gallon. And a firm bid price pay per delivery of $1.6879 per gallon.
You got all that right, also.
Absolutely not.
Hard
I'm
to
afraid
read.
not.
We have clear kerosene if needed, for blending with the diesel at $1.5122 per gallon with a firm differential of plus 0.1650 per gallon. Fluctuating bid price of $1.6772 per gallon and a firm bid price of, pay per delivery of $2.47.9 per gallon.
That's all for fuel. Item number 1.
Okay.
Back
Item
top.
1, from Romar Pit. This is, Mark Babcock, $347 per yard. And from the sewer, Davenport Pit at $608 per yard. Romar Pit is Clark's Pit.
That's hauling.
Yep. Colin.
Reynolds.
Okay, Ben Reynolds, bid for item 1, 6,000 yards of number 1 stone from Seward Sand and Gravel, Davenport Pit, $5.25 per cubic yard. And from Romar, 2,000 yards of number 1 stone from Clark Company, Romar Pit in Bloomville, $2.93 per cubic yard.
Kilpatrick.
Kilpatrick for item number 1, Davenport to Delhi, $6.20 a yard. And number 1 from Bloomville to Delhi, $3.40 a yard. He has an average on here also, $5.50 a yard when you average the two. I'm not sure, but we'll look at that when Darren's looking at them.
Schultz.
Schultz Trucking, submitting a bid to haul number 1 wash crushed stone. The price will be as follows per yard. Seward Sand and Gravel, $6. Clark Company, $2.75. Rate will be $90 an hour for truck and driver in-town use. If the price of fuel goes above $4.50 a gallon, there'll be a 5% fuel charge. If it goes over $5 a gallon, there'll be a 10%, and if it goes over $5.50 a gallon, there'll be a 15% fuel charge. And if it does that, I'm moving somewhere else.
Todd Trucking.
Alright, item number 1, hauling crushed stone, Todd Trucking, Seward Sand and Gravel, Davenport to Delhi, $6.85 per yard. And hauling from Clark's, $2.50 per yard for 2,000 yards. And he has combined bid price added together is $935 per yard.
And Lefevre Excavating.
Okay, we got my cement, Lefevre Excavating, hauling approximately 6,000 yards of number one wash crushed stone from Seward Sand and Gravel for $13 per cubic yard, okay. Hauling approximately 2,000 yards of number one crushed stone from Clark's to Delhi would be $650 per cubic yard. This proposal amount is figured without adding New York State sales tax. Okay. That's it.
So the committees are gonna review those and make their recommendations
Yeah,
for the awarding of the bids.
yeah.
All right. Next up, as long as we've got Mike Sabansky here, I've asked him to stick around for a couple minutes extra, and he's gonna kind of explain the county program. They're working on a pilot program for solar farms, which is gonna be discussed tomorrow at the county board meeting.
I don't wanna spend an hour and 45 minutes of your time projecting and stuff, so. It's,
Are you gonna do this again tomorrow, or?
no, I have a different one tomorrow, but that was mostly pictures, so.
Okay.
What time is the presentation tomorrow?
Board meeting.
At the board meeting?
1 o'clock.
At 1 o'clock, okay.
So essentially, we have several companies who, I'm sorry, did you want to speak? Okay, I'm getting used to this. We have several companies who have submitted proposals to people to rent their land. Approximately 6,500 solicitations were sent out in Delaware County. So you would think with that many people that we're bound to get a few. Let's start out with the real property tax law says that solar, commercial solar and residential solar are exempt from taxation. So if somebody builds those, they get it tax-free, unless you do something. And we'll skip over this really quickly, you can read it at your leisure. Let's just see. It says your property tax is based on the value of your land, so, and land and improvements. So if somebody builds a solar array on your property, okay, right now they're looking for land that's at least 20 acres and more. They want it within a mile of three-phase electric power lines. There's a lot of power lines in Delaware County. If you have a substation, that's even better. They're willing to pay anywhere from $500 to $2,000 an acre per year, anywhere from possibly 2 years up to 40, or it's 20 years and it's renewable. Once these systems are affixed to your land, they increase your tax value. So if you've got property and there's nothing on there, it's a field, it's set for $5,000. They build a $300,000 array, it's $300,000 plus what the value of the land is. If they're leasing it from you, it stays, the property is still owned by the owner. It's not owned by the company. They buy it outright, then they own everything. Right now, they're looking to lease this. So the property owner has to apply for all exemptions, they're responsible for all the taxes. So there is a lease, it's about 3 inches, and it's, if you had like 3 pairs of these, you might be able to read the print on the things, so you almost need to hire a lawyer if you're gonna look into something like that. I don't know whether or not your zoning in this town would cover that, it may be something that Nicole could answer eventually for you, because she doesn't have all that stuff on the top of her head.
She's got ours memorized.
Okay, so this exemption is different, it's an exemption. It's different than anything else. Anything else you have to opt into, which means you actually have to adopt the exemption. This one comes with an automatic out. So if you don't do anything, it's not taxable. The application has to be made by the owner because the owner is going to be responsible for everything. After the 15-year period, the project is fully taxable. But for the first 15 years, it's not unless you do something. the lease can be, again, anywhere up to 40 years. So you might be committing your land for a long time, and like I say, with 6,000 plus in the county, I'm sure we're gonna get a few, and I don't know what towns they're in. I do know that there's quite a few. There's a few in Harpersfield, and Roxbury that I've heard of so far, and Colchester was in the paper a couple weeks ago with their project for the school. So, during the 15-year period, ad valorem taxes are, I mean, if you're still tax exempt, you have to pay the ad valorem taxes. Ad valorem taxes are the water, sewer, light, and things, you don't get away with that. It's just like if you're a church or something, you still have to pay the thing, so even if you get nothing from it. Here comes the good part. Each municipality, each taxing jurisdiction can say, yes, we don't wanna do anything, so they don't pay any taxes, or we can make it taxable, or we can, put them into a pilot agreement or a community host benefit agreement, so that you actually work out something with the company. But, unless you do something, it's non-taxable. So it has to be done by the county, it has to be done by the school, every town, every village, and there are a couple of villages that have enough land in them that they could possibly have this. Okay, so it does say you can either opt in or opt out. You can make it fully taxable, or you can do a pilot agreement, which you will negotiate terms for 15 years. If you do nothing, they pay nothing. If you opt out, it's already opted out. If you opt in, like I say, this is just opposite of what it normally is. If you opt in, it makes it taxable. So then you have to come up, your assessors have to come up with a value of how they're gonna assess this. And because it's an assessment, and it's on the roll every year, they can come to you every year and grieve it, and you could wind up paying court fees, lawyers, appraisers, for all this stuff. If you work out an agreement with them, the agreement can be for 15 years, you come to a happy merging of the minds, and then you're not subject to any legal fees. And if you want to change the terms, then both of you would have to agree to change the terms. But you're covered for that initial 15 years. After 15 years, it becomes fully taxable. And technology doesn't stand still, so who knows what it's gonna be in 5 years, let alone 15 or 40 years. The terms of the lease, that's between the property owner and the solar company. And I strongly suggest that if anybody does this, they get some type of lawyer to look at it and work on it with them, so that it's not just this is a cookie cutter lease, these are same companies that did, oil and gas and wind towers and stuff, it's all in favor of them. So if you wanna have something that you don't like that's in there, you better have a lawyer to deal with it. So, let's see what else is in here.
One of the things that they talked about, I was at the Town of Orange meeting last night, and they talked about the fact that there are some people out there that are just getting these leases on other people's property, getting the right to that, and then they're selling them. They're not even really the company itself, so that's something landowners need to be wary of.
There's all kinds of little things that, essentially, you're the landowner, you're responsible for a lot of stuff, and a lot of things are, the terms and conditions in there, that's all in that lease. And once you sign that, you're sort of on the hook.
Yeah.
The company can find ways to wiggle out of this. There's a due diligence period that they start with, and it could be 6 months, and then decide whether or not it's feasible for them, how much it's gonna cost. I did find out it only cost $125,000 to build a mile of three-phase to connect into the power lines. And if you're building a $3 million project or a $2 million, $125,000 is nothing. And they're gonna get tax credits and all kinds of things for this. Let's see. I'm not gonna spend the time I normally would, but I mean, this is in here for you, because I'll be here all night to listen to this stuff. Essentially, it says that, the property owner is responsible for the tax bills, but the company will pay their portion, so whatever the increase in value that goes up, they'll pay the taxes on that. If they don't like that, and you go to making them accessible, then the company will provide you with documentation and stuff to go to grievance, but you as landowner have to go to grievance. The company has no legal standing because you're the property owner, you get the tax bill, you're responsible for it. So what I have said is, if you're gonna lease 20 acres to somebody, you should split that 20 acres off and deed it to yourself in an LLC, so that if something happens, you know, they can't go after you, and should, you know, you not be able to pay the taxes or something, pay the taxes, then the most you could lose is 20 acres. And, you know, you're not liable for your entire fortune or whatever else you go. I mean, this is an opportunity for people to actually, you know, make enough money to possibly stay in farming. I mean, if you got 100 acres and you're gonna rent out something, and it doesn't have to be just, you know, farmland. I mean, it can be woods, it can be the hillside, all kinds of things. So, you know, they come out, you sign this, first of all, they send you a solicitation saying, yes, I'm interested, and within 5 days, they send you terms of the lease. And then they make an appointment to come out and talk to you. And then if you're willing, then you sign an agreement to have them study the feasibility of whether it's possible, and they're gonna make money on your property, and they'll go from there. But they have to tie your land up for 2 years. Okay, so, I'm getting out of it. If you don't pay your taxes, this next page says that you don't pay your taxes, that company has got money invested in this, they will go ahead and pay the taxes for you, and they'll subtract it from your rental agreement. So, okay. You have Ed here, right? Ed, yeah, okay. If they're gonna, it doesn't necessarily have to be on a farm, but if you are actively farming this, you could be in a situation where you already have an ag exemption on your property. You can't get more than one exemption on the same piece of property. So if you got 1 acre, you can get an ag exemption on it, you can get a forest exemption on it, or you can get the solar exemption. Can't get all three. If you already have the ag, then you're gonna lose that once you do this, because solar farms are not considered agricultural farms. And there is a possible, agricultural assessments are limited to land, agricultural production, you have to have 7 acres or more. It has to be a minimum of $10,000 in gross receipt. And once you get this exemption, it's encumbered for 5 years if you're in an ag district, and 8 years if you're not. So, okay, if you don't get this and you want to do a solar instead of this, if you're just, somebody's just haying your property, or, you know, you're not making a ton of money on farming, no matter what you do farm, you would actually have to convert 20 acres or whatever they lease from you. So it says conversion is defined as an outward or affirmative act changing the use of agricultural land. No penalty is imposed if agricultural land is converted for oil, gas, or wind. However, solar is not included, so you can get a penalty. The penalties for conversion is 5 times the amount of taxes saved in the most recent year that the land received an agricultural assessment. In addition, 6% interest per year is compounded, will be added to the payment of the land received the agricultural assessment, not to exceed 5 years. So 5 years or 8 years. 5 years if you're in, 8 years if you're out. So there could be some money that you'd have to pay back. If you have 100 acres or 50 acres or whatever, you're only gonna convert 20 acres, you only pay the penalty on the 20 acres. It's only on what's actually converted. It's not on the whole thing. Conversion penalties are added to the taxes levied on the land converted. It becomes a lien on the property. So you don't get away without paying. There is a way, possible way that you can actually make the company pay that. But that's something, again, that's in the lease. And again, if you had a lawyer, because if you do it on your own, you might live to regret it. 40 years is a long time. Who knows what's gonna happen in 40 years, and, you know, those panels might not be any good in 5 years. You know, they have all kinds of new technology and stuff, and these have changed so much since they first came out. They're doing them differently than they do. They don't break like they used to. They put out more power. There's all kinds of things. The other penalty that you can get is the forest exemption penalty. You have to have 50 acres for this, and you can get an exemption up to 80% off the value of your land on that 50 acres. You have to commit for 10 years, which means you have to have trees growing there. And you have to have a plan. You go in on this, you hire a forester, and they'll come up with a 10-year plan. And usually they charge you your tax savings. Whatever you save in the first year, that's what you pay the forester. And then, of course, you have to renew it annually and make sure you do whatever it says in there. Sometimes you don't have to do anything. Sometimes you have to cut the trees, and then you pay the town stumpage tax, and you pay the county reimburses the town. If you take this out, this is a 10-year exemption. Even if it's 9.5 years, and you decide to get out of this to go into one of these solars, you have to pay back all 10 years. If it's only a year, it's not so much, but if it's 9.5 years, it can be a lot of money. So again, the penalty is 2.5 times the amount of taxes that would have been levied for each year, the exemption plus interest. If you want to do partial, it's 5 times the amount of that portion. So these things take a long time to calculate. The Treasurer's office does this. It takes 2 to 3 days to get all the information together, and they charge $50 to come up with an estimate. So there is a way to get an estimate, but it takes so long to do it. It's not. Let's see. The tax bill goes to the property owner, and the property owner only has X amount of days to give that bill to the company. I mean, it doesn't go to the company, they don't get a copy of it, it's up to the taxpayer to actually send it to them so that you get the money from them. And that, again, something else that's in the agreement as to, how the taxes get paid, whether they send you a check for the whole thing, or you pay the whole amount and they reimburse you for it, and all that's in the documentation. That's something that needs to be done by the property owner and their attorney for the things. I'm just talking about taxation as far as the town, county, school, village type thing. One of the good things about this is if you own adjacent land, essentially they want the rights to have that sun on those panels. They don't want anything interfering with it. They don't want, they don't want trees. They don't want, you can't put your animals where the farm is or anything else. There might have to be a boundary, all that stuff is spelled out in the agreement, but it doesn't have much to do with taxes, so. And I don't profess to be an engineer or a solar person, so I really don't know that. They have to have access to where those solar arrays are being built. If they can get through it on your land, it's fine. They can put roads anywhere they want. If you have buildings, they can move them or tear them down. Whether you get reimbursed for that or whether they'll build you something new, again, that's something in the individual lease. So each one of these is tailored. And once you have one of these leases and you sign it, you're not allowed to talk to anybody else about what you got. So it would behoove people to get together and possibly come up with a group and negotiate in a group so that you would have better things. If you have land that's surrounding that, and they can't get to their property on the parcel where they built that, they have the right to go on your other land. So, again, you're not just encumbering the 20 acres, you might be doing something next door or behind it or whatever. Let's see what else. Let me see. Can't have the trees, can't have any improvements, let's see. You can't hire another company, so if you've got one company coming in and doing a project on your land, and they're only doing 20 acres, and somebody else comes along and wants to do another 50 acres or something, you can't have another company. So, all these terms are, well, this company is a company, it's a business. They're in business to make money. So they're gonna do what's best for them, and the landowner needs to do what's best for them, him or her. 20 years is a long time, but if you don't do anything, then they're not gonna pay any taxes. And this last thing says right of first refusal. Say you wanna retire and you wanna sell this to your sons, or you wanna give it to your sons, or you wanna sell it to somebody else, because, you've got some money now, and, New York winters and the gas is so much you can't afford it here. that you wanna move someplace else. You can negotiate with somebody else to sell that property to them. Of course, it's just like the conservation easements with New York City. You're gonna get that, and it's gonna come with this solar arrays on it, so, you know, somebody's gonna buy that. But, there's two ways to look at it. Are you gonna be able to sell that to somebody